All right, folks, we're going to call this meeting of the Public Service Committee together. All of the members are here on May 14th. It's exactly 6:30 on the nose. To my left, Joseph McGivern, City Councilor at Large. Again, to my other left, Anthony Soto, Ward 2, Josie Valentina, Councilor for Ward 4, and Peter Tallman, at Large, City Councilor, myself, Dan Bresnan, Chair of the committee. We're going to go a little bit out of order because there's some folks that are not here at this point. So I would entertain a motion that we take item number 5 out of order. Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so item number 5 is the mayoral appointee of Alexandra Puffer to serve as the member of the Historical Commission. If you would be happy to come up here, take a seat. We're very gentle. You could just sit right at the table. Unfortunately, I only have one resume to look at, which is we can throw it around. There's a little green button on the microphone. You just want to hit it. It says push.
Below it. It should be it. There you go. That's it.
Hit it. Test.
Test.
Perfect. Okay. Why don't you just tell us why we look at one resume between the 5 of us? Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, and we can go from there.
Sure. So my name is Alexandra Puffer, and I was born in Holyoke and then attended Bridgewater State University, where I studied strategic communication and public relations. I graduated in May of last year, and now I'm working in downtown Northampton in marketing. And yeah, so that's what I'm up to and who I am.
So, do you have any? What's your interest in history? Because in the Historical Commission, obviously, it's not, marketing, so to speak.
Right. So, in relation to historical preservation, I'm a volunteer at the Wisteria Hearst Museum currently, and which prompted me when I saw the ad calling for commissioners of historic preservation to get involved. And I think that, I really value the old buildings in Holyoke, and from when I was young, my parents kind of gave me this interest of old structures and homes and interior design. So, just looking around the city and all the different kinds of buildings and homes here and architecture really drew me to want to preserve these works of art in our city. And when I saw, for instance, like the website and the opportunity for organization and growth and promotion and inclusion of the community and educators and local businesses with the Preservation Commission, that I think that I could be of service here.
Great. You guys have it first, so any questions at this end of the table so I can pass it down to that end of the table?
Alexander, thanks for coming down and really volunteering your services for the city. This is really an important, even though it may not sound it, it's an important position within the city, especially the way the city is built and the historic buildings. And it's good to see that you, had some experience and volunteered already at Wisteria Hearst, because that's one of our gems in the city of Holyoke. As far as timing and stuff, you have time to do this whenever they call the meetings together to meet.
Yeah, I've been attending meetings since February just to kind of get a taste of what the commission is and who the commissioners are and what meetings, how they're run and what they're up to. And I really like going to the meetings there. There's some heavy things that come across our table, but there's also a lot of fun and everyone's really friendly.
Thanks. I think you'd be a great addition to this board, and I will support your appointment from the mayor, and I wish you all well.
Thank you.
Councilor Valentin.
Thank you. Thanks for coming and for your interest. One of the kind of most heated issues with the Historical Commission in the most recent history was pertaining to the Farr Mansion. Is that an issue that you were following as a community member? And if so, maybe you weren't, but if so, what were your thoughts on how that all transpired?
Yeah, as someone who adores Holyoke's history and who can see the importance in buildings like the Farr Mansion, I think across the community there, it was pretty black and white with people's views. My mom, she works at the Y, so of course, she was, it was difficult to watch your meetings with her, and But I think that's a really good example of the opportunities to be proactive rather than reactive, and that's something that's going to be important in the next like 5 to 10 years here, is really looking at properties that aren't being paid attention to and identifying those, and then ways to really go towards the problem as soon as they're, noticed.
Just as a follow-up. Thank you. And I filed an order, which is currently, I think, an ordinance, regarding the inventory of historic properties, and that inventory hasn't been updated in many, many years. So, so my hope is that hopefully, that was redundant. My hope is that with some new members and some new energy, maybe that's one of the tasks that can be looked at. I've definitely worked closely with Olivia and with folks in the Economic Development Office, Claire Bricker, who's kind of the liaison there with that piece. And we definitely want to get a lot of work done in that area. So hopefully that's something that with new energy could also be something that is a priority. Thank you.
Hi, good evening.
Hi.
Thank you for stepping up to the plate. That's really good. And it shows, so you heard about this, it was advertised and you decided to apply?
I did, it was on Mass Live.
That's great. Well, thank you for stepping up, and thank you for wanting to give back to the city of Holyoke. We'll be looking out to see what you do. Thank you.
Councilor McGivern.
Thank you, Councilor President. Alexandra, welcome. We share one thing in common, or your grandparents. I am a member of the Portuguese American Club here in Holyoke. Now, with a name like McGivern, I think your family certainly knows and understands why I'm a paid member of the Portuguese American Club, but that's here or there. That itself is an historic building, and I agree and share your love of this city, the architecture, not just the buildings, but what the history means, I think, to those, not just those of us that were born here, but many of us who come to love this great and legendary city. Be that said, I'm going to ask you a different type of question. The Portuguese Club is in financial trouble. Buildings are very expensive to keep. If buildings are shut down, become vacant, you can board them up, but then they just deteriorate from the inside. So being historical, to the challenge, I think, of preserving historical buildings is also the challenge of keeping this city going, and part of that is economic development. Do you feel you can keep an open mind when projects that are important to the future of not just the city, but maybe the neighborhood or maybe a particular area, can you keep an open mind that sometimes economic development has to take first place over historic preservation?
Well, yes, I think that's an advantage that I would bring to the commission, is a fresh perspective. But the mission of the commission is to preserve, our sites. And so I think, my heart is always going to be in the preservation of historic buildings, and is always going to kind of vote on the side of history. And but saying that, I think like that proactiveness versus reactiveness will help to kind of look down the line and see what's going to be a problem in the next 10 years, and then really start figuring out a plan for those sites and neighborhoods.
Good answer, because I think a plan is important. With the Mata della Rosa issue, the Polish Historical District, which takes it a step further and a little bit under the umbrella of the Historic Commission, but really on its own. One of the things that Olivia was promoting, that the church itself could be turned into condominiums or apartments, which may not please everybody that was looking to keep it open as a church, but it would save the building, and at the same time, a plan that would keep the building going, because money would be available from the people that lived and rented or owned, for the preservation of the building itself. I don't know if I should do this as a question or a thought, but are you familiar with the open meeting law?
No.
Okay. Become familiar with the open meeting law. The law department, other members of the commission will help you, but I think the historical commission has been pretty good, but some of the Fairfield district and some of the meetings didn't seem to have minutes. But open meeting law means you have to let the public know when you're having a meeting 48 hours in advance. You have to keep a accurate narrative and the results of whatever takes place at the meeting available, called minutes, available for the public. It's just something that as a member, you should make sure somebody's doing that.
Yeah, I've taken meetings just voluntarily in the past couple months, a couple of times, and I did notice that they aren't updated on the website. So again, I do have experience in updating websites, and I'm pretty passionate about.
Nowadays, all of what I said can be done a lot easier, you know, through social media, through websites, and through, you know, being able to understand that. Which, for some reason, your generation does it better than mine, but I don't know why. But thank you for coming forward, and look forward to working with you.
We have the knowledge, Joe.
We avoided the draft.
I make a motion to approve the mayoral appointment.
I just have one.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. That's quite all right. I second, third, and fourth it. This is just a comment to touch upon Joe's comments. Is that just always be mindful of that. The city's financial restraints. I mean, I love history. I studied it. I was fascinated by it because of Art Lynch, who taught history and social studies at. I'm gonna get another dig again tonight at Lynch School when I went there. But just be mindful of that. It's a bit of a kind of a juggling act. You know, what's best for the city, what we can save, what we can develop economically. I mean, I know once you're on the historical commission, the direction that you need to go into, and obviously we want to save history because I want my grandkids to know about the canals and the paper mills and all this other history that I grew up with. Just keep that open mind about where we got to go economically. But on the motion, I have a motion and I have a second to affirm Alexandria Puffer to serve as a historical commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. All set. You'll get a notice from city clerk. You have to come in, kind of do a on the Bible thing. They'll reach out to you, let you know when that's all going to go down.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our full meeting is tomorrow night.
Right.
Yep, got it.
You don't have to be here. There should be no problem.
Right. Yeah. It'll go through tomorrow, and then the city clerk will just do some, informal induction into the historical commission.
Great.
And then you'll be all set.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you.
One thing too, always listen to your mom. No matter what.
Make a motion to take item number 8 out of order.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 8 is the mayoral appointment of Mr. Michael Dodge to serve as a member of the Conservation Commission. Michael, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Michael?
Michael.
Michael.
I actually brought copies.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks. I don't have one. Michael, thanks for coming in tonight. And obviously, as I just stated, why don't you just give us a little preview of who Michael is and why we kind of look over your resume.
Sure.
Thank you.
So my name is Michael Dodge. I have been a resident in the city of Holyoke since June of 2013 when my partner and I bought our first home on Norwood Terrace. And when we thought about purchasing a home, it was a really easy decision to choose to live in Holyoke. For me, I'm a transplant from upstate New York and went to school for my bachelor's at SUNY Oswego in upstate New York. So the snow has never been I've never been afraid of that. I did my master's at the Indiana University of Pennsylvania in student affairs and higher education. And in this past May, completed my doctoral degree in education policy leadership with a higher ed focus. For me, I really fell in love with Holyoke, and so when I saw the posting on Mass Live to kind of be able to be involved in a commission, really kind of saw the two, saw the posting around Conservation Commission, and really saw it as a way to be able to give back to my community. My father is a current firefighter and fire chief back home, and my mother works as a HIPAA officer at our local hospital. And they've always both instilled in me and my brother and sister the importance of giving back to your community, being an involved community member. And so when I saw the conservation posting, thought that that was something that would be of particular interest to me. I have, since being nominated, had a chance to attend both of the commission meetings and become an involved member, admittedly from the public and kind of a volunteer, and have really enjoyed my time.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael, and thank you for that introduction. There's a number of commissions in the city. Why the conservation one?
Sure. You know, I think the conservation one, when I saw it posted, I work at UMass Amherst and have worked there for the last 8 years in a variety of capacities in residential life. But I think one of the most meaningful projects that I've had a chance to work on at UMass has been our Common Read program. And it's a program where we give incoming first-year students, all 5,000 of them, a book every year that we think is really important that they need to read. And 2 years ago, the book was called No Impact Man by Colin Bevan. And it talked all about sustainability, and there was a major motion picture developed from it. And it was in those kind of interactions of kind of learning about the importance of sustainability and the impact, and treading lightly kind of in our environment and the impact that we're having. And so I'm sure you look at my resume, and by no means am I some environmental nut, but I do, after that experience, have a kind of renewed passion and to be able to take care of the place that we live, and to ensure that, you know, the kind of green space that we have in Holyoke is preserved, and that when we do projects that they're done responsibly, and that as a conservation commissioner, hopeful, have an interest in making sure that we balance the needs of kind of this beautiful area in Western Massachusetts, along with the kind of the development and the chugging forward that a growing, vibrant city needs to do.
Thank you.
Councilor McGibbon?
Thank you, Michael, and welcome. You actually answered, I think, a lot of questions just with your opening statements, and I think they're to the point and make a lot of sense. You said when a project is done responsible, kind of the same question I asked Alexandra. Green space preservation, conservation, you know, it's a tremendous responsibility of any community, especially Holyoke. That I think we're fortunate, because I think, you know, per capita we have more conservation land than most communities could ever even dream of. When you look at the mountain, the reservoirs, a lot of good things. What do you mean by responsible when a project is, when there's a project that comes before you?
You know, I from the interactions that I've seen of the commission, and being at the last 2 meetings, and then kind of seeing the passion that folks in the city of Holyoke have for preserving while also moving forward, I think that the piece for me is when I talk about being responsible, I think for me it's the balancing test, and it's also keeping in mind when I think about the responsibility. We get one chance to do some of these environmental projects, and see it as a commissioner, my responsibility to engage those that are looking to build, or looking for an easement, or looking for these other things, to come up with creative ways, solutions that still uphold and protect our kind of conservation in our lands, while also being able to support that local business that's looking to expand, or the kind of homeowner that's looking to do something different, or looking to build a house. I know that's one of the ones currently in front of the commission, is around building a house down by where the boat is, or by where the boathouse is, and making sure that that is done responsibly, so that it follows both the letter of the law and the spirit, and does it in a way that allows either that business or that homeowner to be able to move forward, while still being a responsible member, because we're not just responsible to one another, but we're also responsible to the kind of land that we inhabit.
I was going to ask you, because you've been attending meetings, what you think of the current Conservation Commission. I honestly just heard.
I'm going to take the fifth.
It sounded very, very positive. And
I'm going to pass on that.
But I think you described something, you know, and I think a lot of it might be Andrew, you know, along with the commission itself, that there's a tremendous amount of passion for doing the right thing in a responsible manner. But the same thing, if I heard your words, moving forward. And I don't think we could ask for anything more. Your credentials speak for yourself, and you'll certainly have my support as the mayoral appointee. But thank you for coming forward.
Thank you.
Councilor Tom?
Just briefly, Michael, thanks for stepping up and willing to volunteer for the city and being a new resident 2013 and just getting here. That's really impressive. And by your resume, it's really find that you really are an active person, go-getter, and you're willing to work with the community. We just had a thing, and Councilor McGivern stated about the balance, and you said that about balancing, with business and with environmental issues, because I think just recently we had actually it's going to be opening up the road up Holyoke Community College, and I think that took about 10 or 12 years because of the environmental issues, but it was finally taken care of with all the
because of the snakes.
Snakes, and was it the salamanders too? Yeah.
Snakes.
Yes.
I got over the salamanders quick. It was
Quickly?
the snakes.
Okay. And that's the kind of things that happen and are important, and it's good to hear that you have already attended meetings, and that's really being proactive. So I really am glad you're willing to help out the city and give back to the city, being a new resident, and I wish you good luck in your future endeavors here with the city.
Thank you.
I'd just like to echo what our council just said. Thank you. Honestly, I've seen your different occasions, different events, and to know that now you've only been here a couple of years, that's pretty impressive. Really, absolutely.
I really try to make sure we get around.
No, so again, thank you for stepping up, and you definitely have my support on this.
And thank you all for your time this evening.
Make a motion to approve the appointment of Michael Dodge to the Conservation Commission.
Motion has been made and second to approve the mayoral appointment of Mr. Michael Dodge to serve as a member of the Conservation Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. 5-0.
Right. Thank you.
The big meeting tomorrow night. Yep. You don't have to appear. You'll be contacted by the city clerk's office to come down and go through the rituals.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too. We're going to go back up to number 1, if we could. Item number 1 is the mayoral appointment of Anicia. Please forgive Anthea. I was already told that once, and I still messed it up. To the Historical Commission.
Sorry, I was late. I was coming from a training in Hartford.
That's quite all right. Thank you very much. Let me just see. Anthea, why don't you just give us a little brief summary of, who you are? And,
sure. So I was born in Holyoke, lived here in elementary school, and then we moved to Northampton. I graduated from Northampton Public High. Then I went to Harvard, where I studied urban studies, undergraduate, and then I worked in New York City, and then I worked abroad, and I just moved back to the area at the beginning of 2014, but I moved to Northampton, where I got involved in the Housing Commission, and then I moved here to Holyoke just a few months ago in February, and so I immediately kind of wanted to replace my work with the Housing Commission in Northampton with something in Holyoke and continue to contribute in that way, because I'd really enjoyed that in Northampton. My father, Orlando Isaza, was a very active member of the community when I was a child, and I know that leaving Holyoke was primarily fueled by my mother's desire to get us to different schools, and my father definitely took a long time weighing that decision, and so I'm happy to be back in Holyoke now.
Great.
Oh, and so I work in, I work in low-income housing development in Springfield. We also own and manage properties in Holyoke and Northampton, and we work with historic tax credit deals as well, which I haven't personally worked on, but I'm getting trained in, and so that sort of led to my interest in the Historic Commission.
Not to give your organization a plug, but I manage 600 units of low-income housing, so I won't tell you who I work for, but who do you?
Home City Housing.
Home City Housing, out of Springfield.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Valentin.
Hi, Anthea. Good to see you. So, what do you think? I mean, you talked a little bit about what your experience has been, but what do you think would be some very specific assets that you would be providing to the Historical Commission by being a member?
I think part of, I mean, now, I've heard what you asked Allie, so I was kind of already thinking about it in my head, but I think one of the things that makes my perspective unique is that I come from the development side of things currently with nonprofit, but I've also worked, when I was working in New York, I worked for a landscape architecture firm. And then when I was living abroad, I was working on a hotel development of a convent built in the 1500s. So serious historical work there. So I have that kind of developer perspective on how to move historic projects forward, and so not just appreciating the architecture and the history of something as a resident, but looking towards the future and thinking about how deals get done and what kind of compromises have to be made. And so that's definitely something that I think I bring a very specific viewpoint to it.
Are you bilingual as well?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the other one is that as a member of the Latino community, I think that, you know, the Latino heritage of Holyoke is not maybe something that gets as much focus. It's not as old, right, as the Irish heritage or Polish heritage in the city. But I think it's important to be able to speak that language, and you know, as you know, now the Puerto Rican community, it's every decade that goes by has been, you know, a decade more of the Puerto Rican presence in the community. And I'm not Puerto Rican myself, but being able to work with that community and that background is also something I've been thinking about. I haven't really come up with a exact idea of how to incorporate that more, but it's something I'm interested in. And I know the Wisteria Hearst has started to do that. Or the Holyoke History Room. I guess it was both of them working together for the history of Holyoke, oral history.
Thank you for coming down. Your dad is a great man, and he's a good mentor too for many years. He's really paved the way here in the city of Holyoke for Latinos that are here today in positions that we have. We're pretty grateful for that. And being that you're Colombian.
Yeah.
Yes, but we're all Latinos. I don't want to forget that. I'm really glad to hear that you're step. Actually, you just beat Mike. Mike's been here 2 years. You're only been here less than you. So you just
Although
beat
I was born here and raised here.
That is absolutely amazing. I'm really excited to hear what you have to offer for the city and coming back. And yeah, you definitely have my vote. So, and say hello to your dad for me too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. While we're on the subject of language, do I have it right? Intia?
Yep.
Try it. Do you speak Gaelic? No. Okay, neither do I, so don't worry. I think you heard the question I asked Alexandra, and I think you've already answered it, you know, with your thoughtful approach to some of the questions that have been asked. But that open mind is important in terms of development, and it sounds like you're involved in development. And I think, I didn't ask Michael Dodge about the open meeting law, because I'll tell you that in a second. But I think the idea is moving forward, preserving at the same time is important to all of us. Is that something you think you can do?
The open meeting laws?
No, I'm sorry, I'm mixing questions here. The first, just coffee. First, the moving forward in terms of development, but at the same time with, you know, historical preservation in mind.
Yeah, definitely. I think part of it's being realistic about what the funding sources are for those kinds of deals, and historic tax credits require a lot of preservation, obviously, and that's sort of federal regulation that, you know, the Historical Commission can support it, but at the end of the day, it's a federal decision what is allowed, or the state tax credits. But I think something that I bring to the table is that there are other sources of funding that are available that people might not realize that you can use on a historic building, and maybe not keep all of the historic elements, but still have that sort of general intent. So there are other subsidies out there, so that I think that if someone came to the commission and said, you know, I'm having a hard time doing this with historic tax credits, suggesting other kinds of tax credits and subsidies that are out there at the state and federal levels to move a project forward without having to stick to the exact historical details.
Very good answer. And the open meeting law. The real question, and I didn't tell Alexandra this, was the reason I asked that question is, and it's a good example, with the Conservation Commission, there's one paid staff member. It used to be a little bigger office. With the Historical Commission at the moment, although I think change is in the air, there is no paid staff to work with you. You have to pick up the phone. You know, if you have a question, the law department, you have a question, a number of different people within the city would be available to answer your questions, but you're not going to have someone at the meeting to say, can you find out this answer for me tomorrow? So I think, I just was hoping anyone coming into the Historical Commission gets the idea that there are open meeting laws you have to be careful of. An appointed commissioner, you do have to abide by them. That was the only point.
Okay. I think to Allie's point, I'm very technologically adept. I manage my company's website, and I've done that kind of every place I've worked. So I'm definitely happy to kind of dig into that with Allie's help.
They may make one of you, the taker of the minutes, and have to put them on the website.
Might have to start working this thing.
Thank you. Thank you for coming forward.
Councilor Valentin?
I just have a follow-up comment. I was very interested to hear that you're going through this training that you talked about regarding the historic tax credits, and we've been working with HAP and the process that they're trying to do with Library Commons, and I guess there would be a different approach or a different spin than what some of my colleagues have talked about, and it's the point about historic preservation being actually a tool for economic development. And so I think that the experience that you could bring with that in terms of the training you're getting and the background that you're involved with, I think would also be an asset. So you can add that to the assets that we talked about earlier. But I think it's important to recognize the piece about historic preservation as also an opportunity for economic development. Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve this.
I just want to make a quick comment. Thanks, Antia, for coming down and volunteering your services. Being the last one to speak, everybody already asked the questions I pretty much wanted to ask. But I love the experience you have, especially the part about the historic preservation and historic tax credits. I think that's an important tool that we can use in the city of Holyoke with the buildings that we do have. And I also did know your dad several years ago and running for office. I remember him running for office when I did back about 20 years ago, and how much he's been involved with the community. And thanks for coming back to the city, being all over the world and traveling and bringing your experience here to the city of Holyoke.
Make a motion. We accept this nomination.
Second. Motion's made and seconded to approve the mayoral appointment of Intia.
You got it.
Figueroa to the Historical Commission.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Aye. Move into the vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Intia, so again, you've already heard this twice, you're going to hear it again. Tomorrow night, there's going to be a full vote on the actual commission. You don't have to come to us. You'll be contacted by the city clerk's office because there's a little bit of a formality that you have to go through with them. But as far as we're concerned, you're with us.
Motion to suspend the rules and take item 3.
Second.
Motion was made and seconded to take item number 3 out of order. The mayoral appointment of Mr. Joseph Paul to serve as a member of the Historical Commission. Mr. Joseph Paul, please take the hot seat if you would be so kind. Welcome.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks.
We have one resume, so if you could kind of give us a brief overview of
Sure.
Who you are, and we can go from there.
I grew up in Southwick, and I have always been fascinated with Holyoke. I have a good friend of mine since grade school, George LeClaire. His family owns United Paper Box, and in my early 20s, I used to go visit him all the time. They've owned that since the late 70s, and they're doing really interesting stuff there, by the way. But I used to go down there, visit them, get tours of all the mills, and they're real history buffs too. And I kind of, back then you could see the sort of skyline change in Holyoke. There were a lot of fires, there were a lot going on. And but I became fascinated with Holyoke. I went to HCC as an older student. I graduated from HCC, moved into the old people dorms at UMass, and got I got 2 bachelor's degrees, one in professional writing and one just Bachelor of Liberal Arts in English.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Keep going.
Should I continue?
No,
Okay.
continue, please.
So 2 years ago, I found myself moving to Holyoke, and I
fascinated with everything that goes on around here. It's not boring, and I'm very interested in. I don't think preservation and progress need to be mutually exclusive. I think they both can work together. We're not going to save every building in this city, but I think we need to try as hard as we can and do whatever we can to do that. And there are going to be times when progress means taking a building down, and that's the way it is. But I think we need to do our best to preserve everything we can. I think that's important. I don't know if you want me to go further, or you have questions, or
Keep going. We won't have any questions.
Yeah. What specifically I'm hoping to bring to the Historic Commission is in 2010 I earned a Master's in Communication from Fitchburg State, and I'm interested in helping with communication between the Historic Commission and other departments of government, and between the Historic Commission and the citizens. I want to help any way I can. I've written PR text. I'm a technical writer. I forgot to mention that. I work for Oracle, and I have a lot of experience in communication, and I just think if when things come up, like the fire mansion, for example, I think if communication starts early and everybody's on the same page and everybody's working towards the same goal, I think things are going to go much smoother. And so that's what I'd like to contribute, is my communication skills any way I can.
Thank you. Thank you for coming down. Thank you for accepting this position too. And
Sure.
and also you're a recent transplant to Holyoke.
I am.
This is a great evening.
I have a lot of friends in Holyoke. I've been hanging
do.
out here for a long time, but
You
I
do.
just
You
moved
really
here
do.
a couple of years ago.
And I'll attest to that. You really do have some great friends and a great wife.
Thank you.
So I should have asked this, and I'm sorry to the other appointees for historic. I was curious. One of the gems in the city of Holyoke that I think is a gem is the Victory Theater. Mm-hmm. You want to just talk a little with you? Are you aware of what's going on there? You're aware of?
I'm familiar.
And I'm sorry I didn't ask the other candidates. I just thought
That's
of
okay. I am familiar with the project. I know that they're raising money trying to refurbish that theater. I'm not familiar with how much progress is being made. I'm perhaps not as familiar as I should be with what's going on there, but yeah. So I don't think I'm qualified to say anything else about it. I don't really know too much about it.
That's fair. Yes. That's fair. I would hope that you'd reach out to Don Sanders and to that whole MIFA group, great group of individuals who really care, especially about that project.
Sure.
Just what you said, and you have my support on it. You have my vote, sir. Thank you, and thank you for stepping up, sir.
Great. Thank you. No, it's an honor. It's an honor.
Thank you. I think you heard my questions, and I think you've answered the big one about the importance of the open mind. But as you said it, preservation and development, don't have to be exclusive. But right. Certainly, when it's time to move forward, as Alexandra said, I think we have to all keep what's best in mind for not just the history, but the importance of sometimes a new use or a new project is what's going to preserve the history right. At the same time. Did you understand my thing about the open meeting law? Just if you're not familiar with it.
I heard you asking that, and I will make sure they take minutes.
Thank you. And one of the hard things is, and the mayor's going to propose, I think, something in the future, but to change part of this and putting different people under an umbrella, so that there is some some form of a paid staff member that's available on a regular basis, because pretty much the Historic Commission has been sometimes left out on their own without any professional help, any technical help. Sure. And that makes it difficult when, you know, you're coming in as a volunteer and everybody's got busy schedules. But it is, because you're appointed, it is an important law to understand and make sure. The law department will help answer any questions and help you, you know, overcome any issues. But absolutely. I think it's just important that we keep it a focus on it.
Great.
But thank you for applying, and thank you for your perspective.
It is, it's my privilege.
I'll take the motion.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded to approve the mayoral appointment of Mr. Joseph Paul to serve as a member of the Historical Commission. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thanks again.
Just to reiterate what I continue to say, it's a recording. Tomorrow night's a full city council meeting. You don't need to be in attendance. The city council will vote on it. After its approval, the city clerk will reach out to you for some little bit of a ceremony to be swearing in, so to speak.
All right.
Thanks very
all for
much.
your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Oh,
go ahead.
make a motion to table items, well, actually, to take items 2, 4, 6, and 7 as a package.
All in favor? Any opposed?
Make a motion to table items 2, 4, 6, and 7 since the candidates are not here.
Before we begin to discuss the motion on the table, can we just ask a couple questions?
Sure.
Do we know why the candidates are not here?
No.
No.
Do we know if they've been notified?
Well, it's 7:15, so.
If they were notified.
I can tell you that as a chair is that you know, as former chairs, you know, you present the agenda, and you set the time, and you set the date, and you set the place, and I have to assume that the clerk of our body notified those folks. I mean, because we have
The other 5 show.
yeah, I mean, we have 4 out of 4 showing up. So I don't know if there's any correspondences between the council's clerk or not. That has not been that I don't know. But I don't want to give, you know. I think it's the best idea is just to table it and just see.
I have no problem with that. I just wanted to know if there's something.
So on the motion,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn.
Without any further business, Friends of Holyoke, thank you for coming in. Thank you for volunteering your time, because it's not going to be an easy task. Rest assured, and we all appreciate it. Okay. Motion to adjourn has been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.